just started talking about it, so we're going to roll into that and the new URAR, the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report. What is the new URAR going to be?
The new URAR, they are wanting to get, and they meaning the GSEs. I think their common sort of mantra when you talk with them or when you see their presentations at conferences, and that is they want to get away from the word form. I find myself slipping into that sometimes, but they don't want to use the term form because what we've been using since 2005 and really since earlier than that, the precursors to the current URAR, we've been using typewriter forms. You know, they're these static, old, inefficient, inadequate forms where we're using code words and we're using special punctuation here and we're abbreviating this and we have to roll over to a text addenda about 19 times because nothing will fit on the form, right? So what they're doing is they're saying we're really looking at a report. They want it to be the sort of the full story. They want it to be the full report. Obviously, there will still be needs to attach this or that to it, but they're looking at it as a process. And I sometimes this metaphor is well received, sometimes not, but take it for what it is. It's sort of like a TurboTax process, if you can think of it that way, right? If I if I mark the checkbox for repairs needed, now what's going to happen is it's not expecting me to go onto the text addenda and make my own list. What it's going to do is it's going to pop up fields to say, oh, what is the repair needed? You know, and it's going to ask for the specifics. So what this is going to help do is bring some consistency. So we have the potential, we'll see how this happens. We'll have the potential for fewer revision requests. We'll have the potential for easier QC. So when we take a look at systems like ValueLink and others, right, there's going to be some very defined data sets that, you know, ValueLink is going to be able to harness to have some better analytics and better understanding of what's going on in this particular appraisal report, because we'll have the data set. It won't be, oh, they put it somewhere on their text addenda and we don't know where it is, but a human needs to find it. So this, and we don't want to avoid humans looking at it, but we want to move it so that the human can find in my report the information just like you put it in your report and Jill's report and Bob's report. So we have that more consistent reporting. Another example would be ADUs, accessory dwelling units. If I check the box for an ADU, then it's going to expand and say, all right, we want to know this information. And what we have is the ability and the potential for the GSEs and possibly other agencies like FHA, VA, possibly in the future to say, all right, our policy has changed slightly. We need to know X, but we no longer need to know Y. So we have that control with a data set, and the software providers work very well with piloting these types of things as well as putting it in. And you know, right now they're in sort of their final phases of sort of building this, and so they will be able to have updates. A lot of this is potential. This is future. This is what could happen. But you know, taking a look at the UAD data set updates, and oh, we need to incorporate this new update. And so I don't want to say changing it on the fly, but we won't be in a situation where we've used the same form since 2005, nearly 20 years, unchanged, static, not really meeting the needs of the people who are developing and writing the reports, who are the appraisers, or the people using them, because it's such a disconnect from policy and from what information they're really looking to have. The UAD data set, which is then feeding into this new URAR, this new report, is going to bring sort of a more modern, I want to say, look to it, but also a modern content to it. Right. So it's going to look very different. It's going to be shocking to our eyes when you see it the first time. And there are examples right online. And I've looked at it. It's very modern looking. I'm actually very excited. It solved a lot of problems we have, but it's also going to modernize the content. What decision making is based on now is very different from 20 years ago. And the current reports, the current forms just simply are inadequate. It doesn't tell the information to make some risk-based decisions. And so, you know, we have that, I think, to look forward to, but we also have that challenge ahead of us to learn this new report. How do I work it? How's it going to work in my software? Where am I going to find it once it produces the PDF if I want to actually read what I'm delivering, right? We're going to have to learn a lot as a valuation profession. You know, the lenders and other users will need to learn, how is this all working? So there's going to be a long adjustment period. But I think we can do it. I think the valuation profession is up for it because we've heard for years and years how awful the forms are, how appraisers don't like the forms, right? This area is too small. I can't possibly give you what you keep asking for, and I have to go over here. And so there's just so many inadequacies that I think we'll have solutions. We also have some solutions that are technical in nature. And so I have talked for years about form traps or USPAP traps. And appraisers, good or bad, I would say bad, look to the form in some cases to guide what do I have to include in an appraisal report to technically meet our uniform standards, USPAP. And unfortunately, that's a bad move. The forms have been inadequate. They are missing certain USPAP components. I need to supplement it over here. I need to do this. And so what we're seeing here is actually a very pro appraiser required content in these this new report and process. For example, it's actually asking for more information on highest and best use. It prompts for it, and the appraiser can use those prompts to meet USPAP requirements. It asks for and has certain certification elements that we're missing currently, but will be in this new process to where I can quickly answer the questions through the software, and it will include the necessary USPAP components. So I'm excited about that too, where I see the GSEs really getting on board saying, you know, let's solve some of these ticky-tacky problems for compliance and make it easy for compliance, and then focus on what do lenders need to make some risk-based lending decisions.
Absolutely. So you're excited. That might not be the sentiment for everybody with these changes, but changes are inevitable. And a lot of times for the better. I mean, to take these scenarios, make it more compliant, more efficient, more consistent, I believe in turn is just making it less of a headache for everybody. The change, like you said, there's going to be an adjustment period, but things are innovating. It's not like it used to be 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And in all reality, nothing is. So this shouldn't be quite the shock or quite the surprise, but it'll take an adjustment period. And our technology is innovating and changing right along with it, you know, to make sure that the lenders can take care of the submissions that they need to take care of, that AMCs and appraisers can fulfill the orders that they need to complete. It's all part of the process. I mean, the integrations that we have with the GSE portals are there for the lenders. The data sets are being updated and staying on top of everything so that as the GSEs are releasing these changes and new reports, et cetera, it's going to be accessible to the lenders that are using our system, again, to make it more efficient and more consistent for them. It's important. Everything is changing. Technologies are going to change right along with it, hopefully. You know, you've got to stay innovative. And these lenders that are using a platform like ValueLink or something else, it's important to be with someone that is on top of those initiatives and rolling them out as needed into their software so that everybody is staying up to date together. It's going to be a big piece of the process too, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, change is inevitable, like you say, like we both, you know, it just keeps coming up in our discussions. And so, you know, I think of every, you know, really every profession, you know, technology changes. I mean, if you look at the teaching profession, I remember the overhead projectors, right, where there was that whatever the clear plastic sheets that they would write on and it would project it with light up on. And now we have, you know, and then we had film projector or film strip where, you know, you hear the little tone and there was always that the teacher's pet would be there turning the knob to the next one, right? And that seems so odd, you know, like,
oh,
so
absolutely.
that was, you know, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, depending on, you know,
and there's going to be so many people listening in and like, what are you talking
right. I know
about?
some people are like, who is this person? What are they talking about? What world are they from? But
Yeah.
it seems like another world. And that's really what we're doing, is moving into a new world. I tend to try to look at silver linings, it's not to blind me from the reality, but to see how can I benefit? How will I benefit? And so having a change means, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose efficiency for a while, because it is going to be this huge learning curve for me. And you know, what I think of though is one big silver lining is when we take a look at investigations, and we look at investigations with for states. My company actually contracts out to states, and we do investigative work for them and do some training in some cases so that we're having some consistency, we're having some fairness, we're having some good technical evaluations there. When we take a look at complaints that are sent in, oftentimes it's homeowners. Now, sometimes they don't necessarily like the value, but oftentimes it's because they just don't even know how to read this silly report. They don't know where to find any information. And when we have a layout that gives an executive summary page, and when we have a layout that's really giving the opportunity to explain things right there, rather than over here 19 pages later on the back text addenda, but it's right there related to whatever component it's describing, we have the ability to communicate as valuers much, much better. So in that respect, I'm really looking forward to it, because, you know, the complaints can sometimes be, you know, just from lack of understanding, lack of ability to read the reports, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, and I think of, you know, modernization, you know, I've actually had times when I'm traveling, and, you know, I have, you know, whatever health concern, and I call up a doctor, or I don't call them up, I link with them through my insurance, and they're able to have that discussion. And so I'm sure there have been, and has been, and will continue to be, some pushback from medical professionals. They say, oh gosh, maybe this is cheapening it, maybe this is not as accurate, but they look again at risk-based. You know, if you're bleeding profusely, they're not going to say, oh, let me, you know, send you a Band-Aid, or send you to the pharmacy for Band-Aid, right? Where they're going to say, no, this is inappropriate. We need to stop this Zoom call. This isn't adequate for you. You need to get to the ER. And it's the same type of situation we're seeing here, where we see that spectrum of, and it's risk-based, and it's not necessarily something the appraisers always see, but it's going on behind the scenes, where they're saying, okay, we need the appraiser for these situations. We need the appraiser on this hybrid type situation. We need the appraiser on these types of scenarios, right? So, and it's a lot of it is risk-based.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, a lot of things are going to be and remain situational, and it's just about having the right tools to make sure it's done as best as possible. So a lot of people might not know what to do with it, what to expect from it, or how to look at it. What education will there be, you know, as far as the new UAR is concerned? What do you think is going to help people make this adjustment hurt a little bit less?
About education, is that right?
Correct. What educations are going to be regarding the new UAR and these changes that are coming about?
Yeah, so I think as far as training and education for the new URAR, I think the GSEs learned a lot the last time we went through a big change. So
Mm-hmm.
we have used, as I've said, these current forms since about 2005, but they revamped it at one point, where they said, okay, now, you know, see this field, we're actually going to use for 3 pieces of data. So you're going to use certain abbreviations here and things. So we went through that, and that was so awkward in some senses. Right, there wasn't quite as much education and training that was put out there in a formal, uniform, consistent way.
Hi, everyone. I hope you got a little bit something, of course, out of our clip from Value Update with Josh Wallet. Stay tuned for our final clip, where we give a little industry overview, kind of rewrap the topics that we talked on. And keep in mind, if there's something you want to hear about in a future series, please let us know.